Hold on. I'm taking my shoes off.
Well, now everybody knows you took your shoes off. So, hello. Hey, all.
Dang it.
Good evening, all, and welcome to Practically Tactical. This is our live show streaming to you on YouTube. You can also catch all of our shows in a podcast format on iTunes. New episodes drop every Sunday at noon Central Standard Time. Be sure to put your questions in the chat box or the Google Q&A app. I will be monitoring that, and we'll be answering questions during a live Q&A segment, so get those in. We'll be talking about some hard-hitting stuff today. A couple pre-podcast show announcements to make. I will be hosting This Week in Guns tomorrow night on the Firearms Radio Network YouTube channel. I'll put a link on our Facebook page. Sam will be rejoining us along with Ebbs from House of Guns, and maybe Peter Palmer will be with us, or maybe another special guest. So tune in. You'll really like the show. Another announcement is before that goes live, I'll be recording 2 other Practically Tactical on Target shows tomorrow. One will be with Easy to See Targets. They'll be on the show. And then, actually, if you watch Military Am's channel today, that just came out with Adam Peany talking about ADM's 3 Mod 01 and 2 rifles. He will be on the show. I'll be recording a show live with ADM tomorrow as well. Stay tuned for times on our Facebook page or look for the Google Plus announcements. So that is it for the pre-show announcements. Let's head on to the show. Welcome to Practically Tactical, episode 32, brought to you by the Firearms Radio Network. The Practically Tactical show features a roundtable discussion about guns, gear, and shooting with some of the brightest minds and best-looking beards in the firearms industry. I've been growing it back out.
I can see, I can tell. Looks good.
Yeah.
Keep working. One day you'll be there.
For more information on the show, links to guests, guns, and gear we discuss, please visit practacpodcast.com/032. All right, guys, we got an awesome show for you tonight. We're going to be discussing some really heavy stuff here, but before we get to that, we're going to introduce, we have Sam Cummins from RangeTime, a firearms instructor, former Marine, and a beard aficionado. How's it going?
It's going well. How's it going? Good to be back on the show.
Yeah, it's been a little while, so appreciate you coming back on. Is beard aficionado the correct term?
Beer enthusiast.
Beer enthusiast.
Enthusiast.
Okay. I wasn't sure.
Not quite at aficionado status. I'm working on it, though.
I was trying to think of the names of those people in like Europe when they have that crazy beard brushing, curling competition.
Oh, yeah, man.
You call you that, but I couldn't remember what they're called.
Yeah, the beard and mustache competitions. Yeah. I thought about doing one of those, but it didn't pan out. So.
But thanks for coming on this week. We have a couple show announcements here before we get into it tonight. As a reminder, our live shows are now on Monday at 7 Central Standard Time for all of our podcast listeners. Come on and join the show. Get your questions answered. Practically Tactical on Target has been released. It's now on iTunes. It has its own iTunes feed. Search Practically Tactical on Target, or you can look at all of the FRN shows listed. Find those there. Also, we got 3 discount codes for you guys this week. Right now we have Practically Tactical, one word altogether, at ez2ctargets.com. You get 10% off your order and 10% off your shipping, so check that out. Also, Sam, do you like 31 cents per round 223?
I love 31 cents per round 223.
Awesome. Well, right now, guys, AGS Armament has a 1,000-round bulk pack of Wolf Gold. Now, if you use the code PTAC, PTAC, you get 10% off your order, which knocks it from $350 down to about $315. So go use PTAC at agsarmament.com. I think Mac has a really good video on Wolf Gold and how well it performs.
Yeah,
last code for you guys. Oh, go ahead.
We've had students, sorry to interject real quick, we had students come through quite a few carbine classes, and actually a couple students ran through Costa Ludis's Carbine Elements Theory 1 class all 3 days of it, running Wolf Gold. The stuff runs like gold. It's great. It's great ammo. So definitely check it out, especially at that price from AGS Armament.
Yeah, and they're good guys. There's a Practically Tactical on-target recording with Jared from there. Check that out as well. Also, guys, you can use the code PRACTAC15 to get 15% off your order at ranbrands.com. So if you've never tried out Rand CLP, you want to give it a try, you can use that code. Or actually, if on their site, they send out free samples. So go check that out. Somewhere on their website, you can fill it out, and they'll send you a free sample from their website. So let's get it going on tonight's show here. We're doing a topic-based show, and this is by chance. This has been planned weeks in ahead, and it's obviously very relevant in today's news. Tonight's topic is going to be discussed in active shooter situations. Now, again, this wasn't like we didn't see like the recent news and then kind of say, okay, well, we should probably do this. This is a planned week, so but I think it comes at a good time and maybe a friendly reminder to us to where all of our gear and training, maybe sometimes we need to reevaluate it and take a look at it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to be discussing some situations that obviously happened in the recent news, and maybe find out what can we learn from, what can we take away, because I think that's the most important thing about these situations. So first we're going to move on to the first thing we'll move on to is the Seattle Seattle University. I can't remember the exact name of it.
Seattle Pacific University.
That is it. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
We'll first talk about that shooting, which again is on a gun-free zone. I think I was looking at some data before the show. I think you look mass shootings of what I think that qualifies as 4 or more have been on gun-free zones, all except 2 since 1955.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that needs to be maybe a number one approach, is trying to get these things removed. What do you think?
Yeah, I just I have a friend here at the local college in our town, is Indiana State University, and he's actually the president of Students for Concealed Carry, which is a nationwide organization that has localized chapters at pretty much any major university you see out there. I know that there's also community college and stuff with chapters for Students for Concealed Carry, because most colleges across the United States, whether it's by state law, whether it's by university regulation, ban the carry of privately owned firearms, even with a lawful concealed carry permit, on their campus. If it's not a state law, obviously that makes it just a legal gun-free zone. If it's just a university policy, then they will punish students, staff, and faculty either by obviously firing staff and faculty, or administratively, punishing the students of the university, possibly expelling them for doing so, which blows my mind sometimes that is the world we live in. Obviously, the arguments against it, they don't want guns on campuses because it hinders debate and safe environments for that. And I understand, but when you look at the culture of people in the United States today that carry firearms, that concealed carry holders are among some of those law-abiding citizens in the United States. I mean, we've gone through multiple background checks to acquire the permission of the government to exercise our Second Amendment right, and I just don't see the logic in not allowing people the best tools possible to protect themselves and others around them. So
yeah, well, in every school you always hear, the safety of our students is our number one priority, and I just think, really, how is that not absolutely insane to say that safety is our number one priority, but we don't want you to protect yourselves?
Yep.
One of those, don't worry guys, we got this, and obviously they don't. But we'll kind of move on to the Seattle Pacific there. For those that aren't familiar, a deranged individual, that might be too nice of a word to say for this gentleman, showed up there and I think fired one shot shot and killed one person right away, and then I think fired a couple more shots if I'm correct. Mm-hmm. And then while reloading, one of the students security, or whatever their name for it is, actually rushed and tackled him. Then other students joined on and stopped the massacre. So I gotta find his name. I don't know. Do you remember his name off the top of your head?
John Mice.
So John Mice.
John Mice. That's the name of the guy that subdued the shooter. I do not know the shooter's name, nor do I frankly care, to be honest with you.
Nope, we won't even mention it on the show. So so that's awesome. That's his name out there. That's the guy who we need to thank. That's the guy who we need to do. Obviously, he used some pepper spray on him, I think, while he was reloading. Obviously, we would have preferred him to use, I think, a better tool for the job. Obviously, the best outcome there is for everyone to survive, and for the assailant, or the guy that committed that awful act, to have his day in court and be punished accordingly. But what if the guy had reloaded and gotten back up and started shooting people? Would pepper spray have stopped him? I've been OC'd before. I know what it feels like, and a guy that's determined to do what he needs to do can fight through that. So I think it was more than just the OC or the pepper spray taking him down. I think it was the multiple people getting in on it and subduing the attacker. And those guys, I'll commend them to the end of the day. So yeah. Well, I think what's important too is we need to commend him from the courage, because from it sounded like nobody else would do anything until he did it.
Yeah.
And so we have to be thankful that there's people out there that at least stood up. We would have preferred other options of defense, but he at least went out there, stood up, and at least did something for his fellow students, fellow man, and that is what I like. Kind of a cool story for this that aren't familiar. He is actually some kind of conservative, we'll say, reporting had picked up on his Facebook page. He likes the NRA. He likes Kel-Tec firearms. So hopefully Kel-Tec hooks him up with a firearm, because I'm sure you could conceal a PF9. Great. But people found out that he had a wedding registry. He's engaged,
Mm.
and people went out there and like paid for his wedding and bought him all this stuff. So I'm good to see that happen to a good guy.
Absolutely, absolutely, and like I said, that's the guy. John Mice is the guy that's the real hero of the day, and we should all look up to him and follow that example of stepping in and doing what needs to be done. I think that Jaeger has some really good videos out on active shooters, and he gets very passionate about stepping in and doing something when you have the means and the training to do so. And I'm the same way. I feel like that if you have the means to do so, you know, we enable ourselves to react to a situation like that by having these protective instruments at our disposal, whether it be a knife or a flashlight or OC spray or a lethal option, a firearm or something like that. When you accept that responsibility to be the armed citizen, you carry the responsibility of also making the choice of doing something. And to me, it's not a choice. To me, it is I have the means, and I will do something if it needs to be done. And that's easy to say. It's easy to game it and say it, but when the situation actually presents itself and shots are being fired, will you run towards it or will you run away from it? And that's when it really comes down to. So.
No, you are 100% correct there. So we'll move on to another story here, and then we're going to kind of circulate both of these from the air. So obviously there was a Las Vegas shooting. There's tons of stories on it now. For those that might not be familiar, basically a man and a woman walked into a CC's Pizza. There were two officers there eating, shot them there, yelled something stupid, and then proceeded to a Walmart where a CCW had, in some form, there's been a couple different accounts. Basically, he engaged them of some sorts. He did not fire a shot. He was shot and killed from behind. And then basically after that, I believe these people proceeded behind the Walmart and killed themselves. But it's another story here of a person stepping up into, trying to do what's right.
Yeah.
And so obviously we wished it would have been a different outcome. We're not going to play Monday morning quarterback because there's so much here that for one, it's not our place to pick apart. You never know what's going to happen or what you're going to do till you're in that situation. So we're not going to play Monday morning quarterback on it.
Yeah.
But for him and his family, I hope everybody out there really appreciates what he done, because I believe that altered the course of history of what was going to go happen from on there. So
as do I, and from what law enforcement has said so far in their investigation is that they had this kind of manifesto let out that was saying what they wanted to do and how they wanted to hit other places and kill more people as much as possible. And this man, I have his name here, Wilcox, Joseph Robert Wilcox is his name. He was killed as well, and people need to know that. He was killed when he stood up against these guys to try and stop them, was shot in the back by a coward. And then they went behind the building and shot themselves because they're cowards. And I can't even get in the head of people that do things like this. But what needs to be said is that we need to be as prepared as possible. I'm not saying to be armed to the teeth, open carrying your ARs out there, for you guys that do that. But, these kind of things happen. We live in a world where, unfortunately, this is what happens in the United States, and certain liberal advocates will say it's because we have so many guns, and I'll say it's because we're not allowed to carry our guns in enough places. I think that the threat of someone possibly being armed and resisting what you're trying to do is a big deterrent for these people. I think that the fact that someone stood up to them one time, and even though they were killed, that stopped them from doing what they were doing, and they went ahead and took themselves out and stopped the situation. But
yes.
Again, the guy's Joseph Wilcox is his name, of Las Vegas. He's still carry holder. Again, it's not clear whether he drew his handgun and exchanged fire with them or not. But what is clear is that he stepped up and he tried to stop things. So he is a hero in my eyes.
Absolutely, 100%. So again, we've mentioned both the names of these guys. You know what? Go find it out there. Find ways to help them out, whatever it be. Send a letter, send a card, money, whatever. I think any support would be grateful to both these people. But so now we've kind of talked about it, generalized the situations here, and I think the most important part of it is what can we learn from it. It's not to Monday morning quarterback it and say, oh well, he should have done this or that or body armor or whatever. It's more of, okay, how do we learn from this and incorporate that? So Sam, when you take a look at both of these situations, what is it that every day, from the perspective, or I should say, to the general concealed carrier, because there's been a couple times where just your normal day concealed carry guy has been thrown into these situations, what can they learn from these situations? What do you think when looking at these two situations? What can a person take from this to later incorporate into what they do every day?
Well, I think that one thing would be to seek out professional firearms training, whether it be just a level 1 defensive handgun class, or a moving on from that to a level 2 class, or a force-on-force class that actually focuses specifically on those kind of violent encounters. Medical training. You don't have to be the guy that, if there are people at that point that have been injured and they're laying there, maybe they haven't been killed, or they're still alive, they're fighting for their lives. You have that medical training, the traumatic training to stop the bleeding, start the bleeding. You can get there and you can save these people's lives, whether it be with taking out the mass killers, or with helping afterwards, trying to save people's lives before EMS arrives. I think there's a lot to be said for where am I going with this? There's a book out there that I've read a couple times. It's a small pamphlet almost, written by Colonel Jeff Cooper, called The Principles of Personal Defense. It's a book that James Yeager asks you to read before you come train with him at Tactical Response. And I think that little book, it's about 25 pages. I've read it 100 times, I bet. And it talks about these principles and how they apply to your approach to everyday carry. He doesn't talk about being paranoid and walking around and searching, assessing every time, and being aware of your surroundings, but basically having a heightened awareness of what's going on around you. Be aware of where you sit when you go into a restaurant, when you go into Walmart. You don't need to tactically scan all the time you're around there, but be aware of who's walking around you. Be aware of what the general mood of the place is when you walk into it. See who's standing around. Like what characters kind of look a little shady to you. Who's obviously clearly not a threat to you. I mean, again, just a general awareness and training, and carrying your gun on you. I can't stress enough how important that is, guys. Pat Rogers has said it. Your gun is not your car is not a holster. All right, your bedside table drawer is not a holster. Your backpack is not a holster. Carry your gun on you at all times. All right. My opinion would be to probably avoid gun-free zones if at all possible. Obviously you have children; they go to school. I don't know a single elementary school in the United States, or middle school or high school, that allows private citizens to carry firearms in there legally. And I'm never going to tell you to break the law. I'm never going to tell you to disobey any laws out there and risk any kind of legal action against you. But avoid those if at all possible, and always be prepared to respond to whatever situation might present itself.
No, and you had a definitely put on there that I wanted to make note of, talk about, was have your firearm on you at all point in times. And it's not like, I've heard it to where, I only carry if I'm going to go into bad neighborhoods. Well, for one, why are you going to bad neighborhoods then? That's ridiculous.
Exactly.
And two, what's the point?
Don't go those places.
Yeah. And then, it's like you just went through. I mean, I'm lucky in Wisconsin to where literally I just send a check, hunter's ed, copy of ID, and I have my CCW. I know in other places it's not that easy. So a lot of places have to jump through a lot of hoops to get it. So if you're going to go through all those hoops to get it, and you have it, your CCW license or CCL or whatever your state calls it, take advantage of that then. Carry a firearm every day. Guess what? I've learned a lot just by carrying a firearm for months at a time. You kind of learn a lot about what good places to wear, what's going to be comfortable, what prints the least, what position works best for your body. And different ways like that I think is very important, that if you don't carry every single day, you don't learn those type of things. That, maybe not that I think printing is a big deal, but maybe it's one of those instances where maybe a person's walking around looking for something like that, or just having that concealed availability is what makes you stop a shooting like this. And I think that's really important, is to carry your gun every day, because you learn a lot about yourself, you learn a lot about how to carry, and there's just it's a wealth of information. I think that's the biggest thing that I've learned of carrying every day, is how much I've learned. I don't want to say firearms, but just about carrying in general, because it's now the point of it is a lifestyle point to carry a firearm every day, not just something to make me feel safe and warm inside.
Yep. And I will absolutely kind of avoid areas where I know that either there are a higher crime area that I know, either it's my hometown or I know certain areas of bigger cities around me that are just not the most safe to go to. I'll avoid any restaurant that either has a sign, even though in the state of Indiana a no gun sign or a gun free zone sign carries no legal weight. It is their private right as a business owner to ask individuals not to carry firearms in there, and I'm not going to be the guy that writes them all kinds of letters and all kinds of posts about it on Facebook or whatever. I'm just simply not going to go there if they have those signs up. I'm just not going to go to their business. I'll avoid it because you know what, that could possibly turn into some sort of really bad situation. I'm not going to sit there and game it, but I'm just going to avoid it. I will say, I will cut that that possibility out by avoiding those kind of businesses. I'll go somewhere else where I am allowed to, where the property owner supports my right to defend myself, and I'll go ahead and patronize those businesses, make sure I support them. I'm not going to be outspoken and participate in the open carry marches with Chipotle or Chili's or whatever it may be. I understand the purposes for that, and it's totally fine and it's totally legal. I'm not going to tell you not to do that. I just choose to be a little more quiet about it, and I will basically show my support for the businesses that support me.
Yeah.
And whatever it may be, whether it's a mall or whatever it may be. Like I haven't gone to the movies here in town in a long time because our movie theater has a sign that says no weapons allowed. And again, even though it's a little sticker they put on their windows, it's AMC theaters. I don't know whether it's a corporate thing or whether it's a by management discretion. And I haven't asked. I just don't go to the movies anymore. It sucks sometimes because I want to go see the new stuff that's out, but I just don't go.
Well, and the reason we talk about this is CC's Pizza, where the shooting of the 2 police officers in Las Vegas happened, was a gun-free zone. Mm-hmm. The school where it happened was a gun-free zone. Walmart was not. Walmart does not. Again, they don't get involved in it. They just leave it up to the local, state laws. So again, I think that really shows here again of, going to the right places to where, and sticking to the right places, but also shows the effect of when there are those that have and those that are carry, how the outcome again. And Joseph Wilcox, I think, really changed history of something that could have been absolutely terrible. So again, I commend him on that.
And not to say that's not terrible. I mean, those 2 cops were
oh yeah, absolutely.
Obviously on duty, and they were taking their lunch break. All they were doing was taking their lunch break with two buddies sitting there, and just expecting to be safe enough to be able to sit down and have lunch, and someone walks in and just guns them down right there with no warning whatsoever. I think that's a terrible, awful tragedy, and my heart goes out to their families and loved ones. I just think that I'm really, really glad that someone was there to step up at the moment, and hope and what I think is he did change the course of that event, and that tragedy made it a little bit less. It could have been much, much worse than what it was. And again, the loss of 3 lives out there in Las Vegas is a terrible thing. So
yeah, and again, our heart goes out to them. I wish everything would have been different. So, but that's the world we live in, and this is something too that I think kind of applies here too, because the original goal of the show, which I when I pitched it to Sam weeks ago, was I think there's this fantasy world a lot of, I'm just going to pull my gun and put them down, or, with this type of stuff. And it is far more complex than that. Like, that was basically, it's just so much more complex than that. And I kind of wanted to crush that fantasy, we'll say, of, if I'm at, Walmart and there's a shooting, I'm just going to pull my gun and put them down, and,
Most guys think that you can just square up and get your good draw stroke in and start to go to work, and it's not like that, guys. There's so many more factors to cut that you need to take into account. I'll reference the Clackamas Mall shooting from 2012. It happened out in Oregon. There's a gentleman whose name is Nick Melly. He was a concealed carry holder and carrying his firearm inside the mall there. I'm not sure if it was a legal gun-free zone, whether it was just, you weren't allowed to have your gun because of the administration of the mall. But he came forward and said, I drew my firearm. I was ready to go to work and stop this guy from doing something terrible. And he drew his handgun, aimed out on the suspect, but he remembered that one life safety rule that we follow, be sure to target its foreground and background. Even though there's things he may have been able to do to change that angle and still deliver those rounds. Again, we're not going to game it, but he made a decision in the moment that he could not safely fire at this person because there were people running across behind the shooter. At that point, you need to remember that it still applies, guys. And he made the decision not to shoot at that moment, but I'm pretty sure from what the story I've read and everything is that the shooter saw him, he took back from cover, and the next shot the shooter put off was into himself and stopped shooting at that point. So again, I think that Nick Melly at that point in the Clackamas Mall shooting is another hero who kind of didn't actually have to employ his firearm. He got it out, he got it on target. He actually didn't have to press those rounds off though, and I think that again, having good training and having good awareness of what's going on, and even when you're actually in that moment when your sights are on target, and you're looking at this guy getting ready to possibly end a human life, he was aware there were innocent people around him, and possibly the rounds might not strike at their intended target. Now you can say, well, he should have been a better shot, and this and that, and he should have known exactly where to hit him and everything. But again, we're not going to game it, guys. I think that that's another example of a concealed carrier stepping in and doing something, and we kind of need to go about with that mindset. If you make the decision to carry a firearm, you make the decision that you're going to run towards the sound of gunfire, not away from it. There's obviously other training things that come into it, whether it's using cover or being able to move and shoot at the same time. Obviously learning a proper grip, proper trigger control, and proper use of your sights, being able to take those shots accurately is extremely important. I think there's a lot of training out there for like tactics and stuff like that, but when it comes down to just basic shooting, getting squared away as much as you possibly can, the basic fundamentals of shooting, being able to put accurate rounds on target at any distance at a pretty decent amount of speed is incredibly important.
No, you're 100% right there, and we definitely can't Monday morning quarterback the guy because we all know how to been if he put shots down range that didn't hit his intended target. So, and again, too, that's one of the 4 basic rules of firearm safety. You definitely can't knock a guy for doing that, and the willingness to step up and try to stop it. So, kudos to him. But yeah, back to that fantasy thing kind of drives me nuts. I think there's, and again, too, we're talking like a little YouTube world because there's so many, keyboard commandos and 182nd Chairborne of the special forums operate. Did you see that 4 Guys Gun patch?
I did see that patch. I like that. I like that a lot. That's cool. Who came up with that over there?
That would have been Whitey.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
It's so good. For those who don't know, talking about, go to store.4guysguns.com and go look at their patches. They have an excellent patch. So back on subject here. So yeah, I think there's this whole fantasy thing, and for those that aren't subscribed to Trigger Time TV, go check that out. Especially the newest video featuring Kyle DeFore. They kind of sit down and just do a little chat with them for about 5 minutes. And literally the last 30 seconds of this 5.5 minute long, 6 minute long video, he hits on this subject that I want to talk about. He says, you can send soldiers on the battlefield that have millions and millions of dollars in training behind them and gear, and you know what? Things can go bad. Mm-hmm. You said, you can have a guy that's the best out there, and he can get killed by literally a 17-year-old kid that has never even seen TV before. Yeah. Just by chance, by action, by ambush, whatever it is, things can go bad. And I feel like that's a lot of things. That's a lot of people might not be necessarily, not that you can prepare for things going bad, but there's a lot of things that can happen. That again, that whole fantasy, I'm gonna pull my gun and put them down. That works great until everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. And I think that's the thing too, is people need to get into the reality of things could not go your way. I think that's another thing that CCWs need to accept too, is you could have the best training, you could be the best guy out there, and things cannot go your way. Yeah. And I think that's something people need to digest.
I mean, it comes down to just being able to adapt to the situation, whatever may happen. Obviously, you're never going to get a perfect 180-degree straight-on shot with the guy. Get a perfect draw stroke in and a perfect presentation on target. It's never going to be like that, guys. It's going to be, your heart's going to be going 100 miles an hour. You're going to be sweating. You're going to be probably carrying stuff that you're not used to. You're going to have other people with you. There's going to be people running around. You might still have your coat zipped up, and you can't quite get to your gun as fast as you want to. The draw stroke won't be perfect. Your grip won't be perfect. Again, it's just never going to go the same way. And sometimes, like you said, it's just it's not the time and place, and things go bad, and good people die, and it's just a terrible thing. And the best thing we can do is make sure that we're as prepared as possible to react to this situation. So
yeah, and for those listening on podcast, I'll be sure to put the Trigger Time Kyle DeFore video in the show notes. He's a former Navy SEAL firearms instructor. I mean, he's an awesome dude.
Someone that I really want to go train with. Definitely a level above where I'm at right now. I'll tell you for sure.
So kind of moving on, we touched on a little bit here, but how do we, so that this information we've talked about, and this realism thing, how is there anything else how we can incorporate that into our lives other than training, which we'll hit on here in a second? Any other ways we can take what we've learned so far and the information that we have and incorporate that into anything else we do? Do we miss anything there?
Really, my biggest piece of advice would be to seek out professional training, whether it be obviously your defensive style handgun classes, because that's basically our lifeline as civilians. We don't carry around rifles every day, unless we do, and then I guess we do. But most of us that carry firearms every day carry a handgun. So going to get a quality defensive style handgun class, we offer a great one. That's just me being biased. Now, getting a really good handgun class in under your belt and continuing to train, continue to practice on the range. Don't just go out and just plink at a couple targets, every time you go out. Take a few hundred rounds and you go to the range for an afternoon. Start out with some fundamental stuff. Figure out what you want to work on that day, whether it's drawing from concealment, whether it's shooting and moving, whether you want to set up a little defensive scenario stage and shoot that at your range if it allows you to do that. I would encourage the people that only have the availability to get to an indoor range where they can only stand still to seek out as much as they possibly can some sort of outdoor range that lets you do those kind of things. I'm very, very lucky to have this facility available to me at RangeTime, where we can go out there and train even if we don't have classes. We can shoot and move. We can set up cover. We have vehicles out there we can work from. All kinds of different stuff that we can do to kind of really kind of hone in on exactly what we might do. But then again, if the real situation presents itself, we don't know exactly how we're going to react until it actually does. And everyone can say they're going to do something all day. And like you said, everyone has a plan until they get a punch in the face. Everyone has all this training and carries their gun in a good holster and has all the extra stuff that they need. When it comes down to it, are you really going to be that guy that's going to step up, that guy or girl that's going to step up and do what needs to be done?
Yeah. Well, we'll use that to segue into the training aspect here. And I'm going to break that down in two different sections here. We'll do, obviously, firearms instruction, with instructors. And then second part after that, I think we'll do at the range and by yourself. You kind of hit on it there. But obviously, and this is something I hammer too, especially because I'm that guy that goes to Gander Mountain to look at stuff. For those listening to the show, they know I don't like them. And I wait for people to go buy Uncle Mike's holster, and I stop them. But I get it so often too, is the fact of like, oh, well, I paid $100 for my CCW course, and that's my training. For one, that's not training, and two, you paid $100 for something you didn't have to pay $100 for. The class is not required in Wisconsin, and people are like, oh, really? I'm like, yeah, $35 check, copy of Hunter's Ed, and copy of driver's license. That's all that's required. So that training that you call it is not training at all. You just took stuff of going over the laws, which is good. Don't get me wrong. That is great to know your local and state laws in regards to CCW. That's good to know, but that's not training. And that's something I always want to stress to people is go get firearms training. But let's say somebody has their CCWs, never taken a class, and obviously looking what's and something I need to point out too before we get into this, and I should point out earlier is, so we're talking about active shooter situations. These are actually happening less and less. There's actually a lot less violent crime. I don't call it gun crime because there's no such thing. We don't have bat crime or hammer crime or any type of other thing. So these are actually decreasing, and that's what people need to know. So we're not like trying to fearmonger and scare everybody. That's not it. We're just talking about being prepared because I think that's important. So so when someone that's never taken a class that might be worried of taking their kids to the mall, what classes should they what should they start out and what should they take, work them up through, since you work at RangeTime, what 5 classes or work them through the whole schedule of going from nothing to basically everything.
Nothing to everything. All right. Well, first off, you need to get a good gun. You need to get something that is going to work for you in a defensive scenario. All right. You don't need to. How do I say this? I would not recommend a revolver as a primary method of carry. And I know that's controversial to some people, but most modern-day firearms instructors will be in alignment with me on that. You need a quality striker fired or whatever reliable system you come up with. Semi-automatic handgun chambered in a cartridge that is suitable for defense, whether it's 9mm, 40 caliber, 45 ACP, 357 SIG, 10mm, whatever one you choose that works for yourself. I prefer 9mm, and there's various reasons for that. But I think that obviously There's a lot that goes into buying a gun, and we could do a whole show on just going out to buy a gun. I believe you guys already did one. Was it last week or 2 weeks ago with Nick and Whitey, right?
Yep. Yeah. We kind of did. You bought a gun now. We did kind of cover that part. So.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm sure that a lot of that stuff was covered, and a lot of the things that I'm going to say here are going to go along with that. You need to seek out professional firearms training. I'm not talking the guy that gives lessons on the weekend at your local, rod and gun club. I'm talking about a professional that does this for a living. Now, we get a lot of questions like, what are your certifications? What are you looking for? And basically, there's no official standard of certification across the board for firearms instructors. It comes from experience, it comes from reputation built within the industry, and it comes from the feedback from people that have actually trained with you, and that's kind of where you get your reputation and your recommendations and whatnot. Obviously, we've had quite a bit of private training. I have real-world experience with the military, even though I was not trained on handguns. I have a lot of firearms training on different weapon systems from that, and a lot of training on actually public speaking and teaching people, whether it be firearms or anything else, or tactics or whatnot. Where I would start with RangeTime specifically is Defensive Handgun 1. That's our 2-day defensive handgun class. You shoot in between 800 and 1,000 rounds of ammo. So it's quite a bit of shooting, but we really hone in on squaring you away with fundamentals and an intro to defensive tactics. It's not a high-speed, intermediate advanced level class. It is a beginner/intermediate class, and it's for everyone out there. I think that it's one of the best handgun classes you can get. Again, that's me being biased. I would look into it. There's lots of other schools out there that offer lots of really good training. I'm not saying you have to come here, even though I really appreciate it. I feel bad for I feel like I'm doing a commercial right now. There's lots of good people out there doing lots of really good stuff, guys. So seek out professional firearms training in your area. There's never been more available to you guys than there is right now on the market. There's so many different places to choose from. There's little guys that not little guys. Hell, there's guys with hardcore special operations experience that have a lot of knowledge to share. They just haven't gotten their name out there yet. So look for guys around in your state. Go to a local gun shop and see, hey, do you have anyone that offers professional firearms training? I'm not looking for a gun safety class. I'm looking for a defensive firearm class. Okay, a gun safety class is great, and it teaches you all the things you need to know to handle a firearm safely, but what you need to learn how to do is how to fight with this handgun, how to employ it to save your life potentially. Okay, how to draw effectively, how to get accurate hits out at range, how to run your gun, how to make it work when something goes wrong with it. All right, how to fix it fast and make it work. How to put more bullets in the gun effectively, and we'll do that a lot. We get into proper using cover properly. I think that's some things that you miss out of on a level 1 class, and we do a block on using cover and shooting from cover and moving in between pieces of cover in our classes, because I believe those are incredibly important skills even for the beginner to know, to begin to work on, because being able to use cover properly, know the difference obviously between cover and concealment is a really, really important thing, especially if you're going to be using your firearm to defend your life and your loved ones. Past that, actually, this coming Friday, we have our very first trauma management class. My friend Kyle, he and I went to high school together. I joined the Marines. He joined the Army. He's got a wealth of knowledge. He's an Army medic, a 68 whiskey, I believe. Classification. Don't get me wrong, Army guys. I'm not totally sure on the on your MOS, codes and stuff. But I know what he does now as part of the Army Reserves is he does the recertification for Army medics from Ohio, Indiana, and Illinois, all the different reserve units around there. So he's got quite a bit of experience, not only operationally, he's deployed to Afghanistan and Iraq. Sorry, I just believe Afghanistan. Anyway, I'll clarify with him later. But again, there's a video on our channel. He'll explain his whole background on that. But he has real-world experience being a medic, and he now has training experience teaching other medics how to do their jobs better. Okay, so we kind of tapped into that. He's also an occupational therapy assistant, working at a clinic here in town, and putting all those things together, even though that doesn't qualify into the trauma management portion of it, he still, interacts with people on a daily basis. And we're out there for our class. He's put this whole thing together for the armed citizen to kind of learn how to treat any kind of traumatic injuries they might come into. As I mentioned earlier, I think having a medical kit on you and being able to use it properly in an active shooter scenario can save lives. It absolutely can save lives, and I think that it's almost a must to have something on you available, whether it's in your car, in a bag that you carry with you, or even on your person. I know that there's a lot of guys that have that as part of their kit, including me, an everyday carry medical kit. So I think that seeking out medical training should be the next thing you do after a level 1 defensive handgun class. You know, everyone wants to go take carbine classes and this and that, but let's face it, guys. We're normal civilians. We're not going to be carrying rifles with us every day. I think that's important to know how to use that firearm, that whole system effectively if you need to. But I think that a handgun class and a medical class are the first 2 things you should do. And don't just think because you've taken one defensive handgun, one class, that you're ready to go on to the next level. I'm not saying that you're not, but there needs to be a lot of practice put into applying those principles that you learned in your level 1 class, refining the fundamentals and getting everything squared away before you're ready to move on to your level 2 handgun class, your advanced application class, whether you're at the low light or a vehicle class or whatever it may be. You can go many different directions from there. And again, there's lots of stuff available at every level for different kinds of training out there. So, you know. Excuse me, wow. At this point in the game, in the industry, there's so many options for you guys to get really, really high-quality training from a lot of different people out there, and we'd certainly encourage you to seek those out. Obviously, here at RangeTime, we offer our branded of defensive firearms training that we found to be very effective, and people seem to really enjoy it. We have lots of repeat customers, so we really encourage you guys to come out and take a class from us.
Well, for all the listeners, I know I've went down there, and I definitely recommend you guys. So you hit on there. What about, and I think that's something a lot of people forget too, is so we go take a professional training course, and we get our certificate and we hang it on the wall, and high five everybody and slap hands.
Yeah, all right.
But we also, how do we practice stuff at the range in regards to CCW? If you were, like you talked about, you're fortunate enough to have this awesome range. If you were just going to go to a public range, what things would you do to practice being a concealed carry holster at just like a normal public range?
I would actually go out to the range to practice in my carry gear. I would wear the holster that I carry in. I would wear the extra mag pouch that I carry on me, and that's exactly what I would have. I would wear normal street clothes when I go out there. I'd run drills with multiple targets. I'd run drills where I set up pieces of cover to use if I know how to do that. If I'm still in the beginner stages of learning, I would literally stand still and make sure I can get an effective draw stroke and like that. If I had friends there, I'd probably set up I'd have them set up a malfunction drill, hand me the firearm, and I had to fix it or whatever it may be. Again, all these kind of different drills to get us going, whether it be ball and dummy drills, working on that. I think that dummy rounds are a really good training aid to effectively practice malfunction training. I would work distance. A lot of guys don't work distance. I'd work 20 yards and out, shooting on a target, making sure I can still shoot good groups at that distance. And there's a lot of merit to be said like that. A lot of people say, well, I'll never shoot that distance in a real defensive scenario. How do you know that? How do you know you won't have to take that 25-yard shot? How do you know that the situation won't present itself where that's the only opportunity you have when you have a clear line of fire for enough time where you can get your sights up on target? Do you have the confidence to make that hit at that distance? Can you make that center mass hit in the chest and stop that guy, or at least stop him to the point where you can close the distance and get more hits on in the closer distance or whatever it is? And sometimes you might have to make that shot, and I think that you should be prepared to do that. So I think that working distance out and in, I think that working from concealment, I think working reloads from concealment, I think many different scenarios. Practicing out there on the range, you can get lots of good training in on your own. I think that coming back at the beginning and end of your training sessions, doing fundamentals at the beginning and the end, are a good way to bookend your session and kind of close it off on a high note and kind of leave the range with everything squared away.
Okay, and some of you hit on there, which reminded me I want to talk about. This is episode 1, Jeff Blue went on their show, our first ever show. Somebody talked about on there too, which still hits me, is he was a big proponent of XS big dot sights, which he still recommends for different things, but for your everyday carry, because he's talking about he'd always recommend them, and now he's going back to your standard notch and post for the simple fact of, and he made a really good point about especially everyday CCW is, look where you go every day carrying a firearm. Look around. Look at the distances. So, for example, maybe you go to a mega Walmart. How long are those actual aisles? Those aisles are actually really long.
Mm-hmm.
A Lowe's or a Home Depot or wherever you go.
Somewhere 30 to 50 yards long. I mean, they're long.
Yeah, I mean, especially he said Home Depot, where they're probably actually literally they could have aisles for literally 100 yards.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was a very important part too. Was we talk about awareness, and maybe we need to hit on that part too a little bit. Is be aware of not necessarily the people and the stuff, but where you go. I think that's a very important aspect to incorporate into your everyday carry. Now, we're not saying like, okay, well, I'm going to go with the bad neighborhood, so I'm going to carry a 10 millimeter Glock. Not necessarily that, but it's more of where you go every day. And if something were to happen there, what would you do? Do you have the proper gear for that? And I think that's something really important that Jeff mentioned in episode 1 of, when he actually looked at the aisle length. Is he going to have with his XS big dots, is he going to be able to accurately put rounds on target if needed? And that made him kind of reevaluate everything.
Yep. Another thing that I didn't hit on that I feel like I should, is being able to shoot and be accurate, and being able to manipulate your handgun one-handed. I think that we get into one-handed shooting in our 2-day defensive handgun 1 class, and I think that being able to shoot accurately and manipulate your firearm, whether it's reloaded or clear malfunctions with one hand, is extremely important. Obviously, I'm single. I go out alone all the time, so I'm not worried about having to handle kids or anything. But I do have a younger nephew, and we do go out places together. My sister, my brother-in-law, and myself, and I'm the one who's carrying a firearm, and I'm the one who's ready to take care of that situation. If I hadn't be holding my nephew, can I run my firearm one-handed while I'm protecting him? Can I clear that malfunction if I have to? Like you said, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. If you get shot in the arm, or you get shot somewhere where you're trying to hold a pressure dressing on, or whatever, can you still run your gun one-handed? Can you run it with your non-dominant hand? All right, can you reload it with that hand? I would obviously seek out professional training to learn how to do that properly first. And once you learn how to do that properly, when you're on the range and you train to do that, make sure you're doing it in a safe manner. But be aware of how things change when you go into just having one hand. Is your gear accessible bilaterally? Are you able to reach it all the way across your body with one hand? Can you reach your holster with your non-dominant hand? Can you reach your mag pouches, with your dominant hand, and so forth? So, something to consider.
And something here to hit on too is the one-hand thing, and they could say, well, the chances are minimal, but what about if you have to pull someone to safety? I think that might be the most common thing. If you have to pull someone to safety, obviously you probably use your, you would keep your firearm in your strong hand, but maybe it could be a weird angular situation where you got to switch or swap it, or not to expose yourself, you have to use your dominant hand to reach for somebody. So again, that's just stuff to think about of where you go and the gear that you carry. So we're gonna start wrapping up here. We're gonna run a little bit over here, guys. There's a couple Q&A questions we got in the hopper here, so we're gonna hit a few of those. We're gonna move on to our live audience segment, answering some questions. So for those listening on podcast, come join us on Monday night. Hop in and ask some questions. We'll get them answered for you live. If you have any questions you want answered, you can email them to me at nick@firearmsradio.tv. Had a bunch of people sending questions, comments, and feedback on the shows. Got them answered, so feel free to do that. So we'll move on to our first question from Gunslinger. He was obviously watching the beginning of the show. So, Sam, what kind of beard products do you use, and how long have you been growing?
What kind of beard products do I use? Well, I've been growing my beard over a year, but I've obviously trimmed it quite a bit. I was going to grow out, but I realized when I look back at some of the videos over the winter that my beard got pretty gnarly looking, so I'm going to keep it a little more trimmed, especially during the summer. Be a little more aerodynamic, if you will. As far as beard products go, I don't really use products at all. I just wash and condition it just like your normal hair. I mean, they make specialty stuff out there, but it's just I don't even know how to answer this. I can go into like a whole thing. I have a friend who's really into beard products, so he's the authority on it. I have a specific comb that I use for it because you make sure it doesn't get all nappy and stuff. You make sure you comb your beard.
Well, I thought you looked like a good you'd make a good-looking homeless person. So
jeez, man, thanks. I don't know what kind of compliment that was, but okay.
But we're gonna one more question here, and I think you might have a lot of input on this one. So we have a question from Scott Burns. Scott, thanks for the question. Hey guys, great topic. Have a question. What is the group's opinion on how much ammo, based on the caliber to have in your EDC setting? He says, I carry a full-size MP45 with the standard 10+1 rounds and another 10-round reload. Thanks. So I'll let you hit on there. Then if for some reason your greatness didn't cover it all, I'll hit what I think.
Oh man, you're way too kind. But how much ammo to carry? Enough to accomplish the goal of eliminating the threat should it present itself to you. Okay, I've never met anyone that's been in a gunfight that has said, "I wish I had less ammo. I wish I didn't have as many bullets as I had." I've met people that say, "I wish I had more ammo." I carry a Glock 19 with 15 plus 1 and with a spare Glock 17 magazine. Sometimes I load up a Glock 17 mag with a plus 2 extension, so 19 rounds. And sometimes I feel like I need to have more than that, so I'll actually throw a couple extra mags in the car with me. That's not me being paranoid. That's me being like, man, if I need extra ammo, it's there and it's ready to go. However much you feel comfortable with is my recommendation, because I really can't tell you what you need to do to make you feel better about things. But I know that sometimes I feel like I should have more for various reasons. So that's my answer.
Well, the only thing I would put, obviously if you have different laws and restrictions, obviously, follow those, whatever they might be. But for me, it's if I have the option to carry more rounds, I will. For me, it's like, if I need to, I can carry my full-size MP, 17 plus 1, have another 17 plus, 17 round mag. For me, it's if carry what you're the most accurate with. If your full-size MP45, that's what you can put rounds on target faster and more accurate, then that's what you carry. If you can take the same full-size MP9 and do the exact same thing, I would say then why not carry 17 rounds instead of 10? That would be my only input on that aspect there.
Why would you want to carry anything less than the full capacity of your handgun? Yeah. I think that I'll say this: at the very minimum, you should carry a full magazine for the standard capacity of your handgun, and a spare magazine of at least the full capacity of your handgun, if not more. If you live in a state where unfortunately you're limited in capacity for your handguns, because obviously the Glock 17 was not designed for 10 rounds. If it was designed for 10 rounds, it would be a different looking handgun. It was designed to carry 17 rounds in the magazine. That's what it was designed for. So if that's your carry gun, 17 rounds plus 1 in the chamber, then that works for 9mm. So 18 rounds in the gun, and then another 17 round magazine at the minimum, at least one.
And again, too, you have to do, before the show we were talking about my Glock 42 here and different carry scenarios, or possibly carrying 2 guns. So you also have to fit with the situation, your carry style, whatever. But you're carrying guns, so you're winning. I think Scott, you're at least winning on that aspect. So, and again, if that's what you're good with, and that's what you can put accurate rounds on target with, keep on carrying, buddy.
Yep, please do. And thank you for carrying.
Yeah. So we're gonna run a couple minutes late here, so let's move on to our gear segment. Sam has something really cool to talk about here. I gotta make sure I even say this right. ZevTech Fulcrum adjustable trigger.
Yeah, it's a ZevTech Fulcrum ZevTech Fulcrum trigger. They make 2 versions. They make the duty version, which is non-adjustable, and they make the adjustable version, which is like I said, adjustable for pre and over travel. This is in my Glock 17 FDE here with the slides done by Innovative Gunfighter Solutions. Really cool dudes up in Michigan on that. This is the gun I primarily use in classes. You'll see it on the range with me. I do carry it sometimes. It is a little bit bigger, but I don't have a problem concealing that at all. And sometimes I feel better with a little bit of a bigger gun, a little bit of a bigger duty size gun. But anyway, this trigger is a really simple upgrade. It is a little pricey. They come in about $120, and that's just for the trigger bar and the billet aluminum trigger there. It's a whole different trigger housing. You can see it's actually a machined. It's a metal trigger there with a metal trigger shoe in there, safety shoe. But like I said, it is adjustable for pre and over travel. I'm going to go ahead and press the trigger on the stand so everyone knows it's empty. If everything's good, well, we're good to go there. But anyway, as you can see, it's adjustable for pre and over travel. And I adjusted the pre-travel to where there is no take-up except for the safety actuate, the trigger safety actuating. So as you can see, I press back, and there's the wall right there. There's no play in the trigger whatsoever. And then there's a nice smooth pull, probably about 3.5 to 4 pounds. I do have the competition spring kit and the V4 race connector in here from ZevTech as well. And there's obviously no over travel after the trigger breaks. There's no extra play after it. So once the break, it's very, very solid. Slide runs, very short reset, and you're at the wall again. So really, really cool trigger. They're a duty trigger. That's what Kyle, our medic, runs in both of his guns. Really, really nice setup there. They have different options, whether it's the ultimate drop-in kit, which has a whole new ejector housing, all the springs, and a skeletonized striker and new safety plunger that they provide with this ultimate drop-in kit. There's just the drop-in kit, which is just like just the ejector housing on the trigger bar, and then what I have is just the trigger bar, and then I have my own springs in there. But again, I think their duty trigger is a good option if you're looking for a nice upgrade for a carry gun. Some guys will say don't mess with the internals, and that is good advice for you guys that just have somehow justified with yourselves to make that upgrade. I think that's a good thing to look into. As for a competition or a range gun, I think that the adjustable trigger is fantastic. The fact that there's no takeover on this gun, you literally touch the trigger and it's right there. It's incredibly smooth. It's incredibly incredibly easy to press. It's very, very, I don't know, it's just a really nice trigger. So ZevTech Fulcrum trigger adjustable. It's awesome.
All right. Well, I will move on to my here. And mine is actually more of an update because I've talked about it before. I just surpassed the 1,000 rounds on my Fail Zero bolt carrier group here. This is their AR-15 one, not the M16 full auto bolt. So this is it after 1,000 rounds. I wish I had some more light there. Maybe that's now. And before the show, I just wiped it down. I wasn't spraying anything on it or lubing it or cleaning it. I just really was just wiping it down.
I wish you hadn't wiped it down. We could just see how dirty it was. You could have done. You could have left a spot not wiped and then wiped it with like a patch.
Yeah. Well, last time I only put like another there's only like 500 rounds on it since I've wiped it down before on the last video. So, but we're still gonna run it more before I put out the full video. But no issues with this bolt at all. Literally, there's maybe a little bit of staining on it. Again, I've ran it dry though, so I'm sure this thing would really clean up if I had actually, ran it wet or put any sort of lube on it or something. But I'll pull it apart for you guys just real quick here, just to get it out, just to show you.
I haven't cleaned the bolt of my rifle at all.
Well, you are special. So.
No, I'm not special, but I'm kind of embarrassed to show people my rifle because it's so disgusting. I was setting up a double feed this weekend to show students, and I stuck my fingers in there I was like, this is how you get it out if you can't, if racking the bolt doesn't work, and I stuck my hands in, it came out and there's just black gunk all over my hands just from the caked on carbon lube gunk stuff, and it was just so gross. I was like, oh man, that's nasty.
So for those on camera, there's a little bit right here. You can kind of see it, and again too, this because I ran this bolt dry the whole time. And other than that, I mean, again, there's no. Well, some came off right. Being a weatherman, my finger there. But other than that, yeah, I mean, there's just nothing on it. So, it's ran great. Have had zero issues with it. Obviously, gas rings, good to go. It's been a really great bolt. Hope they don't want me to send it back because I kind of want to keep it. But I will be putting up a full video review on this shortly. But I want to give an update. 1,000 rounds, Fail Zero bolt. Again, no issues, no problems at all. None of the coating has come off, and it is a full coating. So now I start putting it back together. I'll try to show you the inside real quick here. Is that
an MP3 finish?
A what?
NP3, like a nickel boron.
Yeah, it's a nickel boron. They call it some EXA coating. They kind of have their own.
This is a really cool article. If any of you guys that follow me on Instagram, I like to post up random stuff. But there's a post I put up the other day and talked about the 2 gun magazines you should subscribe to. There's only 2, in my opinion, you should subscribe to right now. And those are Recoil magazine and World of Firepower. 2 awesome magazines that really are plugged in with the modern firearms industry, gears and accessory and tactics, and they are some really good writers. I know that Pat McNamara writes fitness articles for Recoil magazine. They're bad. They're awesome.
And if you don't know Pat McNamara,
I was going to say badass, but I don't know if I can say that on Practically Tactical. Sorry.
Well, you've already said it. If you don't know who Pat McNamara is, look him up. The dude's awesome. That dude is. I have been trying to get him on the show. But the most recent issue has a article all about firearm coatings and talks all about coatings. Explains 10 different kinds. It's really, really informative. So definitely check that out if you get a chance. I will do that. But everything is done. It's all coated on the inside. That doesn't really show up well on camera. I won't pull the. Okay, maybe I'll do it too, just to show you guys. So not the carrier, the actual bolt itself for coating everything is done on this. It's not just an outside coating type of job. I don't know if I can get this pin out without any. I don't have fingernails. I can't grab it. But maybe I won't be able to pull the extractor off to show you guys. But everything's coated in this. There's not. It's not just an outer coating or anything along like that. And I believe it is. It might not even be $200 for the whole bolt and carrier, the works. And again, 1,000 rounds, no issues. I'll be putting out a full video review probably in about 2 weeks. We're gonna do some more, put some more rounds through it, and of course, like we did before, do some stupid stuff to a bolt and test it out. So be on the lookout for that. So we're going to move on to our last segment here, start wrapping up another episode of Practically Tactical. So Sam, thank you for coming on this week. I did really appreciate it.
It was my pleasure, guys. I really appreciate you having me.
Oh, yeah, no problem. You're always welcome on, especially if Mike Lamb can't come on. So.
Yeah, because I'm a suitable substitute for that for some reason.
So let's take some time to discuss of kind of what we got coming up in the near future and where you can find us on the mysterious interweb. So what is going on at RangeTime? What do you guys got going on this summer?
Yeah, we have a really, really busy summer, guys. Late July, we're hosting Jeff Blugan from Arm Dynamics for his defensive pistol class and his defensive shotgun class. Been on the show a couple times, and we also have our schedule full throughout the rest of the year and through to 2015 now. I think Eric has got everything up through 2015. We are hosting Haley Strategic Partners in September, so there's still spots open for that class, I believe. I'm not positive. We have to check with HSP on that. Like I said, we are starting our trauma management class starting this Friday. It's going to be I think it's going to be the second Friday of every month for the rest of the year, I believe. It's going to be one class, and actually we are including in the price of that class a null attack ITK, or a individual trauma kit that was designed with input from Brandon LaBeouf at Null Attack with the H&H. So it's really, really good kit, and we believe it's got everything in that you need to take care of any kind of traumatic medical situation you may encounter. We're going to include that in the price of the class, so definitely check that out, guys. All those classes will be on a Friday. And then the following Friday afterwards will be a defensive handgun 1. So if you want to make a 3-day weekend of it, come take our medical class and then our 2-day defensive handgun class. I think it would be an excellent option for you guys. And again, those are going for the rest of the year. We'll have those the medical classes and the handgun classes. So definitely come out here, take a class from us. Our website is www.rangetimets.com. If you have any questions about training with us or gear that you want for the class or whatever it may be, go ahead and shoot me an email. Sam@rangetimets.com, or if you want to, you can shoot Corey or Erica an email at Corey or Erica at rangetimets.com.
Oh, okay. And actually, real quick, I can just get the extractor spring out. So for those, so you can see the coating inside the actual bolt there, and you can actually see some stuff on there. So do it. Let's see if we can do it live here.
Oh man, live wipe down.
Well, as best I can. But you'll notice the buildup there is gone. So again, this thing. If I had lubed this thing, the cleaning time would be absolutely minimal. Good. So I don't know. Here's the actual extractor. I don't know if anything will come off there. There's not really much there. I don't know if anything actually even came off there because it really wasn't there to begin with. But anyways, guys, what I have going on. Let's see here. I just posted up a couple videos. Number one of importance would be the Omega Army Featherlight 4.5 video. That was fun rifle to shoot. Go check out that video. I'll put the link in the show notes. If you've never got a chance to wield a 4.5-pound AR, man, you can feel the difference. It was a lot of fun to shoot. It's got a great trigger. It's got.
How's the recoil on it?
Dude, nothing. It's like, well, the break is absolutely aggressively insane because I mean, it is a competition, rifle. So if you watch the video, you can see like there's one part where we have two guns, basically the same comps going at it. And there's just gas going everywhere. But you can see the video of me shooting it, and you can just see the gun sliding, and that's really about it. But it's carbon fiber handguard, carbon fiber stock, which is basically just a buffer tube. It was a fun blast to shoot. The gun ran awesome. We had hot weather down there. You'll see an appearance of Adam Peeney in the video for a second or so, and you'll see Argo J doing the robot in the background. So it was an absolute fun video. Got to thank Omega Armory for coming out and doing that. I'll also be doing another video on their custom comp rifle. So their Featherlight 4.5 is basically like the 3-gun rifle, and then their custom comp is like their kind of like race gun. So I have a video coming out on that as well. So check those out. Obviously, check out the channel if you guys haven't. Obviously, check out RangeTime on YouTube at youtube.com/Corey07Inc. I believe.
Yep.
Right. And
yeah,
then
you can search the channel names RangeTime TS.
Okay. And then for me, just search Practically Tactical on YouTube, or you can go to youtube.com/handgunnewbie, as that is my old name, so you can look that up as well. So that's going to be it for what we got coming up. So obviously, guys, as I talked about before, check out This Week in Guns. I will be guest hosting a couple shows here in June. Sam will be rejoining us, and we have some awesome guests lined up to come on from where I'm guest hosting. But if you haven't, go check that out. And for those that are curious why I'm guest hosting, go check out Gun Guy Radio. There's a episode of Jake and the state of mind of Jake. I can't remember the exact wording of the title. Go check that really good episode. He actually talks about some kind of personal stuff that kind of gives you an insight into how much Jake pours money into Firearms Radio Network, and how much he really is just a great boss, and how much he cares for FRN, and how much we're growing too. He dropped some pretty big numbers that FRN is doing. So check those out, and again, look out for This Week in Guns. I will be guest hosting a couple of those episodes. As always, guys, I really want your feedback here at Practically Tactical. Please send any compliments, complaints, guest suggestions, tips, whatever you want to nick@firearmsradio.tv, nick@firearmsradio.tv. Also, if you're looking for any mustache or beard tips, you can email sam@rangetimets.com.
Please do not email me with beard and mustache questions. I will not answer you. I'm sorry.
No, just email him funny memes, and that'll be fine. So for those that are listening on podcasts, please give us a review on iTunes. We got a couple new ones this last week. We greatly appreciate it. Please put in more. As soon as you put in those reviews, man, it bumps us up in rankings on iTunes. So please do that. It really helps us out. Also, find us on Facebook. You can find out all our upcoming shows. We're doing a lot of giveaways. We got some more coming up as well. Facebook.com/practicallytactical, or just search Practically Tactical. And as always, guys, thank you so much for tuning in and listening. Sam, thanks so much for coming on. I really hope we gave some people to think about, and that's what we want to do on the show.
As do I, guys. Thanks a lot for having me again. It's always a good time to be on the show, and I really hope to make it on again sometime soon.
Absolutely. So that's it. We'll see you guys another week of Practically Tactical. Take care.